In Part 3, we started to look at the applications for darkness. We mentioned that it was used to describe lack of knowledge, evil deeds, and the punishment for evildoers, including the devil and his angels. However, time ran out, and we ended with 2 questions. These questions were: 1. Why was there darkness or misunderstanding in the beginning? And 2. Who was it that was in the dark or had a misunderstanding in the beginning? I think the second question begs the follow-up question. 3. Who were these beings in the dark about?
I'm not sure if you realize, but all these questions are poking at the question of the origin of evil or sin. So, in an attempt to answer our previous questions, I will first address the question of where did evil come from? After this, I will summarize my answer, which should be a more direct answer to your queries. Let's begin by reading Ezekiel 28:15.
Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee.
This verse tells us that sin or darkness or iniquity was first found in Lucifer. That is to say, before he became the devil. All this while he was in heaven.
Why is it important to understand that sin originated with Lucifer in heaven?
Understanding this is important for several reasons. However, since we want to keep this discussion short, I can only touch on one. However, this question can be directed to an AI for a more comprehensive answer. It is important to understand that sin originated with Lucifer in heaven because it provides a context for human temptation. This means that Lucifer, who we have come to call the devil, is not just a backdrop to human sin, but he is actively involved in tempting individuals and leading them to disobedience. Sin is a supernatural force that does not have its origin on this earth. Consequently, if we can understand this, then can accept that we are caught in the midst of a cosmic battle between good and evil, one in which we are to actively resist evil and the need to yield to temptation. Now that we have set that stage, we can go on to read verse 16.
By the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire.
Okay, the word merchandise was used since the devil was trying to get as many angels as possible to buy into his lies about God. This caused a war to break out in heaven. In our previous video, we established that there was war in heaven before the earth was created, and that the devil and his angels were cast out of heaven into darkness. As to the question of why the devil sinned, that is a mystery. Lucifer, as he was called before the war, was in a place of magnificence. That is to say, where there was only light and truth. However, when he decided to go against God, Lucifer entered upon darkness and became the source of it. Darkness, in this context, means misunderstanding. The lies that Lucifer told in heaven is what caused the misunderstanding about God, more specifically about his eternal power and government. To clear up the misunderstandings, God created this world.
Is there a Bible text that says that God, in creating this world, is explaining his eternal power and government?
Yeah, remember that text we read, Romans 1 verse 20?
I think we should read this again for emphasis.
Good idea. Romans 1:20. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse.
This verse sounds contradictory. If something is invisible, this means it cannot be seen. But in this verse, we are told that the invisible things are clearly seen. How is this possible?
Well, the truth is God is past finding out, hence invisible. Let us read this in Romans 11:33. Oh, the depth of the riches both of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments, and his ways past finding out. The things about God only become visible because he reveals them. In other words, if God does not reveal something about himself, it is impossible that man will find it out. So when the scripture speaks about the invisible things, it is talking about the character of God.
How is his character clearly seen by the things that were created?
Well, you see, man was created in the image and likeness of God, and then was placed on this planet as gods. Psalms 82, verse 6. The angelic beings were to look upon man and grasp additional knowledge about God. Not just any random knowledge, though. They were supposed to learn about his eternal power and Godhead or government.
What I get from all this is that God was shining his light to reveal the truth about his character and government to the angels.
Correct. The devil had gone about spreading lies in heaven. He had spread lies about God's divine nature and his eternal power. His lies darkened the understanding of some of the angels and creatures from other worlds. Some angels and creatures were flat out deceived and sided with Lucifer in his rebellion against God and his government. Consequently, God had to quarantine the darkness to prevent further pollution of heaven. We read this in Revelation 12:9.
And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So this a classical case, when darkness could no longer dwell with the light. Here we see another application of darkness being used as a punishment for evil.
That is correct. Romans 1:21 says that Lucifer became vain in his imaginations, and his foolish heart was darkened. The bad thing is that his darkness was contagious. However, God was not going to allow this darkness to remain. He was not going to allow the nations to be weakened forever. Isaiah 14:12. He was going to shed light upon the darkness that Lucifer had caused. In other words, he was going to give an explanation. Consequently, on day one, God says, "Let there be light." Please note, he, Lucifer, was cast out before he was cast down. He was cast out into outer darkness. This was a prison. Lucifer was not cast down until the earth until Christ. John 12:31.
I think you have answered both the questions with which we started. The darkness in the beginning was as a direct result of the misunderstanding caused by Lucifer. It follows that since man was not yet created, we are talking about the angels and other creatures in heaven being plunged into darkness or misunderstanding about God's eternal power and government.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better. This seems like a good place to stop, since we have the questions we presented.
I agree. Okay, we have come to the end of Part 4 in the Creation Story series. We invite you to drop down your comments and questions below. If you like this video and would like to complete the series, please click on the link to be taken to Part 5. You can also click on the Amazon link below to purchase the book so that you can read through the entire series, if you so desire. Don't forget to click the notification button and subscribe so that you can be notified as soon as the other videos are posted.